If a pig fights with another pig, who wins in the end? The man answered, the pig wins. This shocked everyone present. He was the first person in the world to answer correctly, and because of this, he became the president of the United States. It turned out that many years later, the average IQ of Americans had dropped to single digits. The reason was that people with high IQs were busy working every day and didn't want to have children, while those with low IQs had nothing to do and were only enthusiastic about creating the next generation. As a result, after many years, the IQ of Americans declined drastically. To address this crisis, the government planned to put two high IQ individuals into hibernation and wake them up 10 years later, in hopes of saving the dangerously low IQ of Americans. Old Joe and Little May were chosen to be the first participants in this experiment. The government promised to give them a generous reward after 10 years. And so, the two of them entered the hibernation pods. But unexpectedly, the only leader who knew about this plan was arrested for corruption, and the experiment was completely forgotten. Years later, the laboratory was demolished, and the hibernation pods were thrown into a garbage dump. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, 500 years had passed. Due to the explosive growth of the population, mountains of garbage had accumulated, but no one was cleaning it up. As the last soda can fell from the garbage truck, the mountain of trash instantly collapsed, and a massive wave of garbage surged into the city like a tsunami. Old Joe's hibernation pod was swept into Idiot's home, and by chance, the pod was opened, waking Old Joe. Idiot, who was in the middle of learning that 1 + 1 = 2, was interrupted and forgot the answer. Furious, he immediately got up and threw Old Joe out the window. Old Joe was a bit baffled. He wanted to go to the hospital for a checkup, but even the hospital's billboards looked so dumb. Upon entering the hospital, it was obvious that everyone there seemed a bit slow-witted, including the robots. Old Joe wanted to register, so he stared at those cartoon icons for a long time, pondering, and finally just picked one at random. Old Joe was sent for an examination. The doctor gave him 3 iron rods, one to put in his mouth, one in his ear, and the other in his butt. Just as Old Joe had inserted them, the doctor said there was a mistake and told him to take them out and redo it. The one that had just been in his butt was supposed to go in his mouth. Old Joe was dumbfounded. After the exam, he immediately ran to the faucet to rinse his mouth. Afterwards, he discovered in a magazine that it was already the year 2505. Could it be that he had been in hibernation for 500 years? He immediately ran to the window and opened the curtains. Outside, the buildings were crooked and leaning in all directions, and those about to collapse were tied up with ropes. Big Joe's car kept moving forward even after it broke down. Old Joe was stunned by everything he saw before him. That night, when he approached a vending machine, 2 police officers suddenly rushed out and tackled him to the ground before he could even explain himself. Old Joe was brought to court. Although the judge didn't seem very smart, he still thoughtfully found a lawyer for him. Unexpectedly, the lawyer turned out to be the dimwit who hadn't even learned that 1 + 1 = 2. Despite his decent speaking skills, the dimwit ended up helping the opposing lawyer accuse Old Joe of being guilty. In the end, the judge banged the gavel and declared Old Joe guilty, sentencing him to 10,000 years in prison.